Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Sunday. It's a good day for coffee, so we're going to do Cafe Club over on Bugforge. This is a broken logic vulnerability lab. So before we get into the lab, as usual, I want to just take a real quick couple of minutes to go over what a broken logic vulnerability is and how it might be a little bit different than some of the other vulnerabilities that we've seen in other labs where we're abusing some kind of misconfiguration or insecure code. So a, a logic flaw or a broken logic vulnerability, it really it is more of a um, flaw in the design or the implementation of an application's logic itself that allows an attacker to elicit some kind of unexpected behavior, right? So it's less of a coding or configuration error and more of a flawed assumption about how users are going to interact with the application. So if a developer assumes that a user is never going to uh, change a certain parameter or a certain value and bases the logic of the application around that assumption, uh, that can lead to unexpected inputs being handled insecurely or failing to handle unexpected inputs in a secure way. So let's uh, let's look at real quick. And obviously, in a couple minute video, it's not really possible to go through every scenario and every remediation. But in terms of preventing a broken logic vulnerability, you really want to try to avoid making any assumptions about how users will interact with the app. Um, Try to account for different scenarios or different use cases. And as you're building the app, clearly document what assumptions you've made, what the expected inputs would be, what the expected outputs would be. So, for example, I expect the user to do this, or I assume the user will interact with the application in this way, and I expect this to be the output or the outcome. And then that last bullet, if your functionality relies on another part of the code, try to think through what would happen if an attacker were able to misuse or compromise in some way that other dependency. So if I'm able to uh, somehow influence how the dependency behaves, what does that mean for your functionality or your whatever part of the application you're building? How would it affect that? So these are just some things that you want to think through. Just making sure that everything is documented, that you've clearly articulated what your assumptions are, so that it's clear to everyone working on the project. And if you're building something by yourself, you kind of have to wear multiple hats and kind of think through these different things on your own. But without beating that drum too much more, let's go over here and get into uh, the lab. Right. Um, I'm slacking a little bit, so I need to get this lab started up. I uh, I was going through getting everything cleaned up from having done it earlier, and realized as I was halfway through the recording that I hadn't set this up again. So bear with me. I just set up my user here. Tester one. I live at 123 Main Street and 555 1234. Okay. So we've got our premium coffee collection. We've got all kinds of coffee. We've got coffee accessories. We've got grinders, cleaning kits, filters, all this good stuff. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to go through the process of purchasing something, just so I can see what it's actually doing. So proceed to checkout. And you see here, right now I don't have any points. So I don't, this is grayed out. I don't have the ability to uh, click this. So just continue to payment. I am tester one, place my order and go and view my orders. Now, if I come over here to my proxy and let me find um, that checkout post request. So here you can see that the points to use is being sent as a parameter in the post request to checkout. So now if I come back over here, you can see now that I've purchased this, I now have 89 points. Okay, so I want to go back through that flow again and just show how this is supposed to work. Okay, so I've gone back, I've added that to my cart again and go to checkout. And now I have the option to select this box and use my 89 points. So the 89 points gives me 89 cents off. Um, Not too big an impact there, but uh, let me, yeah, I'll just go through the normal payment again and look at it just so we can see how it's supposed to work, what it looks like when it's working properly. Okay. So now you can see I've used my 89 points in this points to use. Well, I'm going to send this to my replay and I want to come back over here and just add this to my cart again. Okay, so now it's in my cart, but instead of going through the process this way, I'm going to come back over to my replay. What happens if I change this to 10,000 points? So you can see that the application isn't validating whether I have 10,000 points or not. It's working correctly. There's not I didn't abuse any kind of misconfiguration. There was no SQL injection or cross-site scripting or anything like that. All I did was took a feature that was working the way it's intended to work. But what happened is that uh, the developer probably made an assumption that nobody would ever try to change the number of points that they had. So there's nothing on the back end that's validating that input. So that's what I was talking about earlier when I said um, uh, failure to account for different use cases can lead to a failure to handle different inputs in a secure way. So this is exactly what I was talking about here. So everything's working right, but because there was um, never a consideration that I could change the points to use, there was nothing that was implemented to validate that I actually had that number of points to use. So I essentially just got um, that whole thing for free, and you can see here we've got the flag. Um, so I thought that was a really good good example of a broken logic vulnerability. It's a basic example, but that's really um, where you need to start with it, and just understand um, our job as penetration testers, as bug bounty hunters, is to try to figure out how we can use intended functionalities in unintended ways. So this is an example of using an intended functionality. Like I said, the points um, was working just fine. It was all correct, but I was able to use it in an unintended way to cash out more points than I actually had in order to get items for free. So I hope you enjoyed the lab, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.